My boyfriend got my sister pregnant before our engagement party. Now my family wants me to forgive them, but I told them to f off and moved away. This is going to be a long story, and it's just as crazy as it sounds. I'll try to be as succinct as possible, but there's a lot to cover here. I don't care if anyone believes this or not, it's so absurd that I need to vent. Also, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, but I will omit any specifics that could identify me to anyone who is unfamiliar with the scenario. I'm 28 years old, and until a few months ago, I was in a serious relationship with my boyfriend of 6 years. We'll call him Daniel. My older sister Nicole is 31 and has always been the golden child in our family. To truly grasp the gravity of this betrayal and why it has hit me so hard, I need to give you some background on my family and how we arrived at this point. Growing up, Nicole could do no wrong in our parents' eyes, whereas I was continually criticized and punished for minor infractions. This wasn't your average sibling rivalry or subtle favoritism, it was obvious and intense. Nicole would break something and I would be accused. She'd start a fight and I'd get grounded. If we both got straight A's, she'd get a shopping spree and I'd get a nod and a reminder to keep it up. Our parents, Richard and Carol, were constantly making excuses for their actions. Nicole's the oldest, she has more responsibilities. Or, you're younger, you should learn from her example. Or, Nicole's just more sensitive. We have to be careful with her feelings. The relentless assault of double standards and gaslighting made me feel useless and despised in my own house. As we grew older, the preference became more evident. When Nicole was accepted into a prestigious university, my parents threw her an elaborate graduation party and bought her a new laptop and car. However, when I was accepted into an even better school on a full scholarship, they scarcely recognized it. Never mind that I had been working part-time since I was 16 to save money. I moved out as quickly as possible to avoid the toxic environment at home. I supported myself through college by working multiple jobs and living in a tiny studio apartment. Meanwhile, Nicole dropped out after 3 years, citing that university was stifling her creativity. Our parents wholeheartedly backed her decision, commending her for being brave enough to follow her passion. They even financed her string of failed artistic ventures over the following few years. Regardless of how much distance I tried to put between myself and my family, they always found a way to bring me back. Holiday dinners were a nightmare of subtle insults and not-so-subtle comparisons. Oh, you're still in that corporate job? Well, Nicole is considering opening an art gallery. She's so creative and free-spirited. Never mind that I was establishing a secure career while Nicole depleted our parents' savings. Despite everything, I tried to keep my relationship with Nicole. She was still my sister after all. However, it was always one-sided. I'd reach out and attempt to connect, but she'd either ignore me or find a way to make the conversation into a competition she could win. If I was promoted, she would suddenly have a big exhibition coming up. If I started dating someone, she would inevitably be in a passionate romance with an artist or musician. I met Daniel while trying to reconnect with Nicole. He was a colleague of one of her short-lived business partners, and we clicked immediately. Daniel was everything I wanted in a partner: intelligent, funny, supportive, and genuinely kind. We began dating, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly satisfied and valued. My folks obviously were not pleased. They made sarcastic remarks about Daniel being too good for me and asked what he saw in someone so conventional and boring. Nicole, on the other hand, became quite interested in my life. She was always asking about Daniel, wanting to know everything about him. At the moment, I was just relieved that she seemed to care about things in my life. Looking back, I should have noticed the red flags. Daniel and I moved in together after a year and a half of dating, and it was fantastic. We both had solid careers, traveled together, and discussed the future constantly. I began to believe that just maybe I could have the life I had always desired: a good career, a loving partner, and perhaps children eventually. Daniel proposed to me on our 5th anniversary. It was nothing fancy, simply a beautiful moment during a hike we both loved, with a heartfelt speech. I was ecstatic when I said yes. We planned to have a short engagement and spend our time arranging a small, intimate wedding. We weren't rushing, but we were excited we had our whole lives ahead of us, or so I believed. When we told my family about our engagement, their emotions were diverse, to say the least. My mother put on a fake smile and remarked, "Oh, how lovely," in a tone that implied it was anything but. My father grunted and muttered, "Well, let's hope this one lasts," before returning to his newspaper. Nicole, however, had the weirdest reaction. She congratulated us, but there was something strange about her expression, almost predatory. I dismissed it at the time, attributing it to my own insecurities. The following months were filled with wedding plans and career pressures. Daniel and I were both working long hours at our jobs to save up for the wedding and a down payment on a house. We hadn't seen each other as much as we used to, but I assumed it was simply a phase every partnership goes through. Difficult times, right? Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Daniel grew distant, always on his phone, smiling at texts from people he quickly dismissed as work colleagues. He began going out more with his friends, arriving home late and smelling of perfume that wasn't mine, but I fully trusted him. I never considered that he might be cheating, let alone with my own sister. Daniel began acting strangely around 5 months ago. He was moody, distracted, and always making excuses to avoid intimacy. Nicole, meanwhile, had been unusually attentive, calling me more often, asking about wedding details, offering to help with planning. I thought she was finally being a real sister. Then one night, Nicole called me crying. She said she needed to tell me something important and asked me to come to her apartment alone. When I arrived, She was a mess mascara running down her face, hands shaking. She sat me down and delivered the bombshell. She was pregnant, and Daniel was the father. I was stunned. My brain couldn't process what she was saying. When I asked how long it had been going on, she broke down and said it started during our engagement party. Daniel had been drinking, she had been feeling lonely, and one thing led to another. But it wasn't just once they'd been having an affair for months. My entire world came crashing down at that moment. Everything I thought I knew, everything I had based my existence on, came crumbling down. I could not breathe. I could not think. All I could feel was an overwhelming sense of betrayal and loss. Nicole attempted to explain, her words coming out quickly between sobs. Apparently, Daniel had been confiding in her about our relationship problems I didn't even know we had. She claimed he said I was too focused on my career, too unavailable emotionally. She said they connected on a deeper level and that she never meant for it to go this far. I left her apartment without saying a word. I couldn't bear to look at her or be in the same room with the woman who had betrayed me so completely. I drove straight home and confronted Daniel. He tried to deny it at first, but when I told him Nicole had already confessed, he crumbled. He begged me to forgive him, explaining that it was a mistake and that he loved me, but all I could think of was how many times he had lied to my face and been with my sister while I was planning our wedding. I kicked Daniel out that night. After Daniel left, I was numb for hours. Then I called my parents. I needed them. Needed my mother to comfort me. Needed my father to be outraged on my behalf. But when I told them what happened, their reaction was not what I expected. My mother's first words were, "Well, these things happen. Nicole must be devastated too." My father asked if I was sure I wasn't overreacting. When I insisted this was serious, that Nicole had betrayed me in the worst possible way, my mother sighed and said, "You know how Nicole is, she's always been more emotional and impulsive. You're the strong one, you'll get through this." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told them Nicole was pregnant with my fiancé's baby, and they were telling me to be understanding. My father then said, "Well, what's done is done. The important thing now is supporting Nicole through this pregnancy. Family comes first." I lost it. Years of pent-up resentment and anger spilled forth. I told them exactly how I felt about their twisted sense of family, how they'd always favored Nicole over me, and how they'd never once taken my side or validated my feelings. I told them that if they chose to support Nicole through this, they were choosing to lose me. My mother started crying, saying I was being cruel and selfish. My father got angry, telling me to stop being dramatic and think about the baby, their future grandchild. I hung up on them. The next few days were a blur. I called in sick to work, barely ate, and ignored the dozens of calls and texts from Daniel, Nicole, and my parents. I just sat in my apartment, staring at the engagement ring on my finger, trying to understand how my life had fallen apart so completely. Then Nicole showed up at my door. She was crying, begging me to talk to her. She said she knew what she did was unforgivable, but she loved Daniel, and he loved her. She actually had the audacity to say they didn't plan for this to happen, but now that she was pregnant, they wanted to make it work. She hoped I could understand, and maybe, eventually, we could all be a family. I slammed the door in her face. I couldn't trust myself to speak without doing something I'd regret, but her words echoed in my head. They wanted to make it work. They wanted to be a family, with my ex-fiancé and my sister raising a child that should have been mine someday. It's been 3 months now. I've relocated to a new apartment, changed my phone number, and started therapy to deal with all of this. But my family will not give up. Despite my efforts to cut off communication, they continue to intrude in my life. They've started showing up at my office, attempting to ambush me and push a reconciliation. My mother confronts me in the parking lot, wailing about how I'm tearing the family apart. My father leaves harsh voicemails telling me to grow up and forgive Nicole. Nicole herself has attempted to approach me several times, but I've managed to avoid her thus far. They've even dispatched flying monkeys, extended family members disguised as concerned relatives to guilt-trip me into forgiving Nicole. Aunts, uncles, and cousins I haven't spoken to in years are suddenly calling, telling me how important family is and how I should let bygones be bygones. It's as if they're in another reality where Nicole and Daniel made a little mistake rather than a life-altering betrayal. I received a letter from Daniel yesterday. He is committed to Nicole and the baby and wants to be a good father. He apologized again, but said he's moved on and hopes I can too. He even suggested we could all be civil for the sake of the child. Guess what? My parents are overjoyed about becoming grandparents, forgetting all the cruel remarks they used to make about Daniel when he was with me. The letter was full of justifications about how he and Nicole discovered real love through this terrible situation. He even had the nerve to suggest that maybe this was all meant to happen, that he and Nicole were always meant to be together. I am at my wit's end. Part of me wishes to sever ties altogether and start over somewhere else, perhaps moving to another state, changing my identity, and creating a new life where no one knows about this mess. But another part of me is so outraged that I want to stay and fight, to show them how messed up the situation is. I don't know what to do now. The betrayal has had an impact on all aspects of my life. I cannot stand being alone with my thoughts. I haven't even considered dating again. The idea of trusting someone like that terrifies me. I've also lost friends over this, those who believe I should take the high road and reunite with my family, as if I'm terrible for refusing to play happy families with the people who have hurt me the most. The idea of Nicole and Daniel raising a child together, a child that could have been mine with him in another life, is like a constant stab in my gut. I understand logically that the child is innocent in all of this. It is not the baby's fault that its parents are lying, cheating scumbags, but I can't bring myself to feel good about its existence. My parents have begun to discuss how I should be involved in the child's life, how I will become an aunt. The concept makes me feel physically ill. How can I look at this child and not recognize it as the ultimate symbol of my sister's betrayal? So Reddit, I guess my question is, am I the asshole for refusing to forgive my sister and ex-fiancé? Am I wrong to want to cut ties with my family over this? Any advice on how to proceed would be greatly appreciated, as I now feel like I'm drowning in a sea of betrayal and gaslighting. I apologize for the lengthy post. If you made it this far, I appreciate it. Writing all of this down has been cathartic in a way. I'm not sure what I hope to gain from sharing this validation, guidance, or simply the opportunity to scream into the void and have someone, anybody, hear me.